I just wanted to come on here and throw a few of my thoughts on YouTube just for a minute. Because one, this is probably the easiest video I can throw down for right now. And two, I feel this is somewhat important to mention. It's a real, I don't want to say Gen Z, well, it's a real problem that the internet has right now. Is they do a bit, not a bit too much, okay, it's a lot too much of sexualizing and just overall fetishes, which is really distasteful that I have to see and that others have to see and are pretty tired of. Well, for one, the act of sexualizing children, which is a major problem that happens a lot recently that people don't seem to talk about. It's disgusting, it's distasteful, and people are actually glorifying it, which I find quite astonishing. The vocabulary is not really there. But in my own words, sis, it's not it. Um the fact of pedophilia is crime. No child should ever be looked at with any eyes of sexualizing. It's just morally wrong. It's evil. It's really evil if we're being honest. And it's a massive problem that's going, especially with Twitter. Twitter has a real problem. Twitter is like the devil if we're being completely honest. Twitter has a real problem that people don't like to talk about. The bullying, which is pretty vague, the sexualizing problem. And it's not just children too. They sexualize a lot of well, I don't want to say sexualize. It's more of fetishing. I hope that's not a word. The fetishes is what I meant. Like no. I don't want to get into it, but it's a real problem that needs to be dealt with. And I feel as if well, let's not give it too much. You want to talk about it. You want to talk about it in order to, like, acknowledge that the problem's there and give solutions on how to deal with it. But you also don't want to draw too much. I don't want to say that. It's different in situations like an immediate action where you kind of have to like pay less, like TV. Let's say, let's give an example of a show that's done morally wrong, or is just generally plain horrible. You don't want to give it attention because it keeps drawing in ratings, and well, it's gonna keep going on in most scenarios. But but in a scenario like Twitter, what you have to do is kind of acknowledge it and just like, give solutions on how to deal with it. Which is why we're talking about this. People just do it to be ironic or just like, I don't want to say for convenience or anything. It's sort of like it's irony, and that doesn't really work because when you go overboard, you're not doing it for simplicity or whatever reason. It's not justified. Is what I'm trying to say. It's not justified. You're just at that point you're committing the act. You could throw out the excuse that's dark humor, but it has to be done correctly to be dark humor, and it's not done correctly, which makes it the act very unnoticeable to the point. It's very noticeable to the point where it becomes unnoticeable, and people justify it and think that there's nothing wrong with it, but there is. It's just a real problem that we have to address. I know I'm being very vague with this video, but for one, I want to be vague. You can't tell me what to do. And secondly, I just don't feel like calling anybody out right now, which I'm probably gonna do, but who knows? I might not. Anyways, let's get with the other problem, which is just it's a minor inconvenience. Why do y'all have to sexualize everything, and why do I have to see it on my page? Do whatever you want, but I don't want to see it on my timeline. Please. Like, I'm begging you. Whether it's sexuality, I said that completely wrong. whether it's sexuality, why can't I pronounce it? Anyways, whether it's that, whether it's you guys will just sexualize anything, and it's not like I'm frightened or anything. It's definitely not like I'm frightened or nothing. You already done out here sexualizing children, but it's not like it's a fetish or anything, right? Right? Whether it's played off as dark jokes, which first off, it's not dark humor. It's not even edgy humor. It's just disgusting because it's not used as a form of it's not used to cope with tragedy or anything. It's just used for somebody's sexual delight, but that's besides the point. It's just a real problem, and you guys need to deal with that. I don't want to go too far into categorizing anything, but just know that a lot of people who like that seem to be of the Caucasian teenage female. There's a lot of unholy people of different races, ages, and genders too, but I've seen that mainly on my timeline with them, and that's not a bad. No, it is a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with that. Just keep if you want to do that. I suggest you find help and you know keep it to yourself. A lot of people don't actually get dark humor right. It is what I'm seeing recently, where they'll use any excuse to justify a very edgy or just morally wrong or disgusting or unfunny piece of humor that's seen as the opposite of the lighter side and say that it's dark humor. It's not dark humor. It because it's not used in the correct way. It's I don't know. I actually don't know what type of humor it is. It might even be crude. It's just well for to start off, it's not really humor if it's not funny or appealing in the comedic way, which is mistake number one. Secondly, it's not dark if it's look at the definition of dark humor because I completely forgot. But just know that it's not that if it doesn't appeal to that definition, which is what I'm seeing does what I'm seeing a lot of on the internet does not appeal to that specific definition, and it doesn't even have to be that specific definition. It just has to appeal to that explanation, which is when the reason why I brought this up is because a lot of people like to use the excuse it's dark humor. It doesn't. No, it's not. It's not dark humor. It's not dark humor. It's it's I actually don't know what it is, but it's not dark, not even funny. Then you can't even use the excuse that the humor that applies to different people. It's uh what's the word? It's the reasoning that humor applies to different people, which you could use that. I mean, it doesn't help your situation, but so that's my excuse for the dark humor debate, not debate, reasoning, which is an excuse a lot of people use to you know it's just an excuse a lot of people make to justify their actions, heinous actions, really.